Amanda, I want to play a game.
Hey horror freaks, welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda. As you can see from the title, today's video is going to be my full review with spoilers of Beetlejuice. Now, as always, all my reviews are with spoilers. If you don't want them, just to see if this was worth it or not, on the description box down below, there you're going to find my spoiler-free review because I'll let you give you guys the two options. Given that quick disclaimer, let's get into the video. Now, Beetlejuice is directed by Tim Burton, and it follows after a family tragedy. 3 generations of the Dietz family return home to Winter River. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life is turned upside down when her teenage daughter Astrid accidentally opens the portal to the afterlife. To give a brief summary of the story, the film opens with an intro similar to Beetlejuice, but then it changes to Lydia. She now has a TV show called Ghost House, and it's like a paranormal show, something that we have seen before. But we see that she has visions of dead people and also specifically Beetlejuice. She got married but then got divorced. She has a daughter called Astrid. Her now ex-husband died. Lydia's and Astrid's relationship is stranded. She is on her school, but she's far away from her mother. Now, Lydia has a new boyfriend called Rory. While she is recording her show, Delia calls Lydia to tell her that Charles has died. So now they need to go to Winter River to do the funeral. This is when we see a little bit more of the relationship of Delia and Lydia over the years, and we see that they are on better terms than on the first film. And we also see a little bit of Lydia's relationship with Astrid. They go to Winter River, they do the whole ceremony, and after the funeral they are at the house, and Rory decides that it's the best place to ask Lydia for marriage. Astrid gets pissed off, so she leaves the house. She ends up on a house because she's on a bike and she doesn't really look where she's going. She ends crashing into the tree of a house that has a tree house, and there is a guy up there called Jeremy. They talk a little bit, and I would say very quickly they became, I wouldn't say friends, but they like each other a little bit. He invites her into his house, and he presents her to the parents, but the parents, they never look to Astrid, and this was a detail that maybe doesn't sound important, but it is. Jeremy gets Astrid into his room. She sees the manual book for the deaths, but he says to her that he found it on a store. But that's a little bit weird. They agree to spend Halloween together because that is the next day. That is also going to be Rory's and Lydia's wedding. They are still doing all the preparations, and while all of this is happening, Beetlejuice is having his own problems. Now has an office on the afterlife, but his ex-wife wakes up because she was something like Frankenstein. She was in different pieces, but by accident she's brought back to life, and now she's looking for Beetlejuice, so now he has to deal with that. But Beetlejuice still remembers Lydia and he's willing to do everything to bring in contact with her again. The next day, while they are during Halloween, Lydia drops off Astrid in Jeremy's house, and she goes inside of the house, and this while they are doing a little dance, something similar to Casper scene when they levitate in front of everyone. They levitate while they're dancing in his room. To nobody's surprise, he's dead. But he's not the only one dead. His parents are dead. The reason why they are dead is something that gets revealed a little bit later. He asks Astrid for help to go to the afterlife, but while that is happening, the woman that is going to sell the house tells Lydia about that house because they're talking about Astrid being dropped off at the house, and she tells Lydia that that house hasn't been able to be sold because of the murder. The son, Jeremy, he killed his parents, and then he fell off the treehouse and he broke his neck, and that's how he died. He tells Astrid that he fell off the treehouse, but he doesn't tell the whole story. So now Lydia has to seek Beetlejuice for help. Beetlejuice makes an agreement with Lydia that they're going to get married because he still wants to get married with Lydia, and she even signs the contract and they go. See the whole mess that is on the afterlife. They do the joke again of the big number. We still seeing that. And while all of this happening, Delia dies of a snake. and she gets into the afterlife. She doesn't know what to do. She calls for Beetlejuice help. So now he's helping two of the deeds. They are able to return to the world of the living, but Lydia and Astrid are able to find her ex-husband slash Astrid's dad. They have this cute reunion for a little bit, and Lydia and Astrid are able to leave the afterlife. They get to the church because of the wedding, but Beetlejuice interrupts everything. He forces Rory to speak, and he tells Lydia that the only reason they were going to get married was because of her money. Beetlejuice interrupts the whole thing, but his ex-wife appears, and she and Rory get eaten by the sandworm. Beetlejuice, he did an illegal contract basically, and he broke the contract. They found it on the handbook, so they cannot use the contract, so he needs to return to the afterlife. Lydia sends him back, and for Jeremy, he gets sent to hell by Beetlejuice. Delia is able to reunite with Charles, and we can see that they're going to be happily ever after on the afterlife. Lydia decides to end her show because now she wants to spend time with her daughter. We see them going to Dracula's castle. Astrid sees an employee, then we see them getting married, and then we see them having a baby. She gives birth. The baby is like Beetlejuice baby, but that part was a nightmare from Lydia. So we know that even after the fact that they were able to send him back to the afterlife, he is still going to be messing with her. And that is how the film ends. Now, gearing into the review, I had high expectations from this film. I was excited ever since they announced it. I was surprised that we were going to have a sequel from Beetlejuice. I had a good time. The film is 1 hour and 44 minutes, but for me, it felt quickly. It's not fast-paced, but you get engaged with the story. It's not boring. It's very simple. I wasn't expecting this film to be overcomplicated. So it's a very simple story, very easy to follow. Maybe a little bit predictable if you guess right those little details. For example, Jeremy being dead. For me, it was suspicious from the start. The fact that his parents never face Astrid. And when Lydia sees them, the father has like chainsaw in his face, and the mother has something in her eye. And for me, it was suspicious from that first moment that they didn't say something to Astrid when she gets into the house. And also Rory, he says at some point that he had a wife that died on an accident, and he meets Lydia on a retreat for people who recently lost their partners. And I was like, that's way too convenient. I wasn't wrong. But also remind me a little bit to Corpse Bride, that is another Tim Burton film where that is what happens. The protagonist, that is Emily, that is the Corpse Bride, she gets killed by her lover because they are not even engaged. She is rich, so her lover kills her for her money. And years later, we see him trying to do the same thing with the fiance of the protagonist, that is Victor. So when Rory says that, it reminds me of that, and I'm thinking he's not good news. He's a very annoying character. I don't know if that was the purpose of it, but for me, he was annoying as hell. When it comes to the acting and the portrayal of these characters, I didn't feel that they have been 36 years. For me, they felt just like on the first film. Delia here is even more over the top than on Beetlejuice, but with the modern twist, mostly on her outfits. But for me, it didn't feel out of character because I can see someone like her being like that on the present day. When it came to Lydia, we see that she's struggling. She even takes some pills. She's not having a good time. But when it comes to her physical appearance and the costumes, just like on the first movie. The character of Astrid, I felt that was just for Jenna Ortega. I definitely see Jenna Ortega working once again with Tim Burton. They are doing season 2 of Wednesday. I am very excited for that. But for me, Jenna Ortega is the type of actress that fits perfectly for Tim Burton, because we know Tim Burton is very specific and very peculiar with his aesthetic and the physical aspect of his characters, and also the personality and the way that they are portrayed. So for me, she fits perfectly into his world. Michael Keaton, once again, he is amazing as Beetlejuice. He was made for the part. But just like Beetlejuice, he doesn't appear a lot on the movie, but still his scenes are the best ones. Willem Dafoe appears. He has a minor part. Funny as hell. I really like it. His makeup and and the costume design and everything. He was very funny, but also really cool. Danny DeVito appears for a brief moment. He looks so cool. It's very quickly his appearance, but worth it. Monica Bellucci, she looks amazing. Her dress was gorgeous, and she reminded me a little bit of Sally because she has some staples here and because she had to be reconstructed, but she didn't get so. She got like with a stapler. She did all herself. We had the transformation scene that looked pretty cool. We don't see her a lot also. She is the subplot and she doesn't take much screen time. I was expecting to see her more, but she didn't interfere with the main plot. So she's just the side plot. In terms of the acting, I think that they were all pretty okay, but for me, Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder, they take the lead. They did a fantastic job once again. They work pretty well here. We had a different perspective of their relationship, if we want to call it that way, because here we have Lydia asking him for help. And him in return, he's trying to trick her because that's just who he is. I really like it that they didn't change the essence of the characters. Something that I was curious to see is if he was going to change, but he didn't. He was still the same. His baby appeared 2 times, once with Lydia and then at the end with Astrid. It was creepy as hell, but at the same time, funny. Which leads me to another point that I really like it, the humor and the jokes. The film is self-aware of how camp it can be. It's ridiculous by moments, but it's self-aware. So it doesn't take itself too seriously, and I really like it that they embrace that. For me, this film had all the essence from the first, just maybe a little bit funnier and more campy. When it came to the costume design, the makeup, the practical effects, they were all excellent. I really like it how the costumes, they all represent the characters, and also the practical effects, I love those. I really like how on the afterlife we have every single person that is dead with the costume, and also whatever they have on is a representation of how they died. That's a little detail that I love because it really shows how much they thought about the little details. Because imagine having people dead, but maybe just being bluish gray like something, but not showing a lot. Here we have all of those dead people showing the signs of why they are dead. It also opens the door for creativity. Lydia's ex-husband died on South America, and he had fishes because he got into water and he had fishes that they were even moving. I thought that his design was very cool. The music, the score is composed once again by Danny Elfman. Of course, fits perfectly. The soundtrack that they use also works perfectly for the film, and we have some songs that were already on the first film, and they are back here just maybe a little bit on a different tune, but they work. Something that I really like it is that this film feels like a sequel, and not like they were trying to bring all the aspect and a lot of Easter eggs and maybe fan service from the first film here to push that nostalgia feeling. Here we have the direct connections between the first one and the second one, but this one acts like a different story or even a continuation of the first story. But it's not like they try to replicate Beetlejuice. For example, they don't try to redo the diner table scene or maybe the ending where Lydia is dancing. So I felt that they did the right thing with not doing that and instead trying to tell a new story. The film may not be excellent. It has a couple flaws, mostly on the script, because sometimes it feels that was the best choice. Like sometimes it feels a little bit weird and it could have been better, but it's enjoyable. For me, it wasn't boring at all. Easy to understand, visually attractive. Like the details are amazing. The music is good and the cast is also good. So for me, although once again has some flaws, I am being honest with myself. I love it, the film. But of course, I'm not going to give it a 10 out of 10 or a 5 out of 5 because that would be too much. I was debating between giving a 3.5 or a 4, but I think I'm going to get to the 4, because that 0.5 is going to be just because how much I like Tim Burton's work. He is one of my favorite directors. He's one of those directors that made me fall in love with movies in general. So he means a lot to me. So I am a little bit biased there. So I'm giving the 0.5 just because of that. But for the rest, without that, will be a 3.5. So just gonna settle on a 4 out of 5 and an 8 out of 10. I am expecting mixed reviews from this, not only from the critics but also from the audience. I can definitely see people not being happy with the final results, but I had high expectations and they were fulfilled. Now the ending can be considered a semi-open ending, but I do not feel that they should do a third film. That would be unnecessary, because that's the thing about this. The sequel never justifies why it's made. Sometimes are sequels that 100% they needed to be made. But in the case of this one, although a lot of people asked for it, it wasn't really necessary. The story concluded pretty well. So doing this is like an addition or an extension of the story that we already knew. Still, a lot of people are going to enjoy it, including myself. So with this, I end the video and the review. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know down below which ones are your thoughts. Did you like the film? Maybe you didn't. I hope that a lot of people liked this one, because I definitely did. But once again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys on my next video. Bye.
Game over.